What's going on, everybody? It's Technicians Tuesday. We are going to be cleaning up the T-top on our project boat, and then we will be installing and stringing up the canvas. Today we are also going to be giving away some free stuff, and I don't know anybody that doesn't like free, so make sure you are subscribed and have that bell on so that way you will be eligible to win. Now for cleaning up the aluminum here on the T-top, or cleaning any type of metal on a boat for that matter, when it gets to this point and is pitting like this, there isn't a whole lot that we can do to fix it. There isn't really a way to restore the metal. What's gone is gone and it won't be coming back. So what we can do though, to make it shiny again and protect it going into the future, we can clean the metal with some bronze wool, and we'll use the bronze opposed to the steel because the steel will put rust spots all over the boat and the bronze won't. Then we can wipe the metal down with this Colonite metal wax number 850, then come back over that with some Colonite insulator wax, and finish off with this Colonite fleet wax. This is some great stuff, and I was introduced to it by some boat detailers when I first moved down to the Keys, and I've been using it ever since. We'll start this process by taking the bronze wool and wetting it down with some water. Then we can just go over all the aluminum and really clean out all the salt and corrosion out of the pitting that is on all the tubes. There's not really much to this, just scrub it down with the bronze wool, re-wetting the wool every so often, and then spraying the T-top down to get all the dirt and grime off of it. Then we can wipe the metal down with a dry rag, and we are ready to apply the metal wax and polish. We just need to put some polish onto a rag. They say to use a microfiber towel, but we've got rags and they seem to work just as well. We'll apply the polish and work it onto the metal, then once it dries a little bit, we can wipe it back off with a clean dry rag. We'll just work around the top section by section, applying the wax and then wiping it back off again. We'll go all the way around the T-top except for the back corner here and then call it a night. Looking at the T-top the next day in the sunlight, you can really tell the difference of how it was before and how it is after just using the wool and the metal polisher and wax. We'll clean that corner and then we can start in on the insulator wax. Now this wax is basically the same process as the polish was. We'll just apply the wax and then let it dry, come back and rub it in and wipe it off. We'll go around the whole top and then we can put on the last coat of wax. This is the fleet wax, which is also really good stuff. I just take some of it and then work it onto the tubing. It's important for these last two waxes that you don't do them in the direct sunlight. You also only want to do a smaller section at a time so that you can come back over it and get the wax off before it crusts on. And this leaves us with a super shiny and clean T-top, despite all the pitting and being over 25 years old. Now it's time to get our canvas put on. Before we can do anything with the canvas, we need to measure the T-top to get the measurements for the string. Now it will depend on what style you want to do when stringing up your canvas, but a general rule of thumb is to measure the T-top's width and length, Then we can add those numbers for each side together to get the total circumference of the top. We will take that total, double it, and then add 10 feet to that measurement to get the length of the string that we will need. This is just a general rule of thumb that will give us some leftover string, because it's much better to have too much string than not enough. So for our top here, we are going to need 66 feet of string. Now there are a ton of different ways to string a canvas, but it's mainly about personal preference. The most common way is to go through the eye, behind the tubing, under the canvas, back through the eye, and over the canvas to the next eye. You could also do something like this, where the string comes over the tube, down around it, up through the eye, down the tube, under the string, and then over to the next eye. This leaves the string on the outside of the tubing. You could also double up the string in the eye and just have it crooked across the tubing over to the next eye. Then you can even go through the eye, around the tube, and over to the next eye if you want. The thing is, there are tons of different methods to stringing the canvas, and it all depends on how you want the string to look when you are finished. The ending of the string is another method as well, but we'll cover that later. To get this to look good, the key trick here is to use some cheap zip ties. We'll get the canvas up onto the top, and then we'll go around the top zip tying it onto the tubing. We want to leave all the zip ties as loose as we can until we get all the way around the top. Then we can go back around it, tightening up the ties evenly as we go around the top to keep it centered, and yes, there are chickens everywhere in the keys. Once we are all the way around the top and have all the zip ties tightened up all the way, we can start running the string, starting in the middle of the T-top here in the front. We will put the string down through the eye, bring it around the tubing, then place it under the canvas and back up through the eye. Now this brings us to another crucial point. We need to take the string and run it out until we get to the center of the string. That way we don't run out of string once we get to the back. After finding the middle, we can start working down each side of the canvas using the same pattern as we go down the canvas. We'll come over the top, down through the eye, under and around the tube, under the canvas, and back up through the eye, moving over to the next eye in line. Then for the other side, we'll just work the pattern backwards, over the canvas, down through the eye, and over and around the tubing, then up through the eye and over to the next one. Now we can just do this over and over and over again. After pressing the fast forward button, you'll see that we have made it all the way around to the back, where we can go back to the front of the top and go around tightening the string. We'll just pull it up and then continue going around pulling the slack out of the string. We can do both sides of the string, and then we can go ahead and cut the zip ties off of the canvas and the T-top. We still need to put holes in the canvas and install the anchor light and the VHF antennas, but before cutting the holes and tying the string in the back, you might have noticed that this boat doesn't have any rod holders on the T-top. The old owner's answer for that was to just screw these rod holders here to the back of the seat. Instead of doing that or welding new rod holders onto the top, we're going to put 6 of these sweet stainless steel clamp-on rod holders on. These are taco marine holders, and they go on by just taking the screw out of the middle and then turning it whichever way you want the holder to go, then bolting the clamp back together around whatever tube you are putting them on. I like to put some grease on all these bolts before installing them, but I ran into a problem because I accidentally measured the tubing wrong and ordered the wrong size clamp, and these won't fit on the outside tubing. When they do go on, they look like this though. But thankfully, after talking to Taco, they are going to exchange them for us, which is something that is totally worth smashing that like button for. Now this means that I have all these rod holders sitting here on my toolbox, along with this lower unit prop shaft that is snapped in half. But besides that, my idea is to give these rod holders away in a comment contest. I also have a lot of this colonite left though, and I'd like to try and start giving back to you by giving away some of the stuff that we use in our videos to all of you by doing a weekly comment contest. So this week we'll be giving away this colonite, and all you need to do is drop a comment below and include a hashtag #ThankYouTacoMarine. You'll also need to be a subscriber as well. Then this Friday we'll take all the comments and run them through a random comment picker app and announce the winner via a YouTube post as well as an Instagram post. We might even upload a comment picker video to Instagram since it'll be a short clip. But then if you are the winner, just message us or comment on the post. We'll ask you to email us your address, and as long as it isn't going to cost over $50 to ship, we'll ship the stuff to you no matter where you live. So we'll be giving the rod holders away later in another video. Back to our T-top though. To tie off the string, I like to just pull the string down tight, then run it around the tube and back down on the inside of the string. We'll pull that tight and then do the same thing over again. After about 7 or 8 times of this, it comes out looking pretty clean, and you can even go all the way across the tube if you wanted to. Then we'll cut the end of the string off and burn it a little bit with a torch to keep it from fraying. Then just tie 2 knots in it and work the knots up to the string as close as possible, and we're done stringing. I'm going to wait until we have the rod holders on before cutting the string though. So we'll move on to the anchor light. We'll simply take a punch and punch a hole up through the canvas where the screws and the wires go through. Then we'll move up to the top and take the pick and wiggle it around to open the hole up. If you can't get to the bottom, you can also feel for the hole and then poke it down if you need to. We'll stick the wires into the canvas, and then using a little bit of clear sealant, we will place a little dot on each hole to keep the canvas from ripping. Remember, we can be reached at bornagainboating.com, but once we stick the light down and tighten up the bolts, the sealant will hold the canvas together and the light will keep it together as well. This goes the same for any and everything that gets put onto the T-top canvas. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.